Alright, so you're on to fixing these demons and maybe working on the mechanics a little bit. It's a two-part problem, like I mentioned. Some mechanical, probably, and some mental or psychological. So for the mechanical part, I want you to do a little thought experiment with me, a little analogy, if you will. So I want you to imagine for a minute that you're standing in a gymnasium on a basketball court, and you are on the three-point line. Let's just say you're at the baseline, so kind of a tricky shot. And I want you to think about what would happen if you were getting to shoot a three-pointer, and you shoot it, but the minute the ball leaves your hand, somebody else in the gym flipped the lights off and turned it pitch black. Okay? So you couldn't see where the ball ended up. All you do is you shoot, they flip the lights off, and you're left to wonder kind of, did it go in? You might hear it. Did it hit the rim? You might hear that it hit the rim, but not know if it was the front side of the rim, the back side, the left side. You might even hear nothing but air on this first one. Maybe it's your first one of the day and you haven't shot in a while. So think about how that would affect your next shot as opposed to if the lights were on. Okay, so if the lights were on and you shot your first one, it was short, you're going to naturally shoot the next one a little bit harder. You're going to shoot a little bit farther. You might not even realize you're doing it. You're just going to athletically kind of make an adjustment. Okay, but if they flip the lights off right as the ball's leaving your hand, you have no idea if it was online or the right distance, and you just had to rely on your ear. How would you adjust if you heard nothing but, let's just say, nothing but air on the first one? You know, you don't know for sure whether you missed it short or long or maybe left or right, or you just don't know. You're kind of, I'm sure you would be worried that you didn't hit the rim at all, but you're not certain how to make the adjustments. You're just gonna have to guess. You know, it's got to be shorter or longer, left or right. And if you did that 10 times, where they turn the lights back on, they give you another basketball, you shoot it again, they flip the lights off right as it leaves your hand. Like, imagine how hard it would be to dial in or to make any shots. Right? You just can't make the necessary little adjustments because you didn't see the result. Okay? In golf, if you don't understand completely like things like the new ball flight laws and things like D-plane, which both kind of come to the surface with teachers using high-speed video and using TrackMan and things of that nature, if you don't know exactly why the ball started right and curved left, for example, if you're not 100% confident that you know that, then it's very unlikely that you're going to make the right adjustment. You might try something different, but you might not know for sure if it's right or wrong. So just like the basketball player shooting with the lights turning off, if you hear air, you might say, well, I felt like that was a little short, I'm going to shoot the next one long. But you don't know, how short it was. You don't know if it's indeed short. You might make the wrong adjustment, and the next one could be an even bigger miss in the basketball analogy. And in golf, if you don't understand the ball flight laws and things like D-plane and so forth, then you're kind of in the same boat. Like, you're trying to make adjustments, but you're not 100% sure what to adjust. Or you might think you know, but you might be wrong, unfortunately. And you're going to be like that basketball player, kind of just trial and erroring your way through a practice session or a round of golf, or shooting these three-pointers with the lights flipping on and off. So if you think, whether or not you think you know or not, it's a good idea to do some refresher work on your new ball flight laws and the concept of the D-plane. You can Google it. There's tons of videos out there by great teachers that discuss how the D-plane influences the path, and how the face-to-path relationship affects the ball flight and the start line of the ball and all these things. You really need to know that stuff if you're going to be able to cure your demons and make the right adjustments, because if you don't, you're just kind of trying things, and they might work one time or one day or one round, but if they're not 100% based on facts, then you're probably going to be back where you are right now at some point. So give that a little bit of thought. Run that thought experiment through your head and think about how that influences, or how that is similar to your ball striking issues if you do have the demons, and we'll move on from there. All right, this is a big one, I think. You got to understand what's making the ball go where it goes and make sure that what you're trying to do matches your current swing. So if you haven't already, I would recommend finding a teacher or a facility that has TrackMan or GC Quad, something like that. And you're going to want to check your path, first and foremost, with your driver, 3-wood, and other tee shot clubs. You're not necessarily going to change it, but you need to know what it is. Now, generally speaking, whatever your path is, it kind of is, unless you're trying to change it. So like, let's say you're out there hitting these shots that are way left, way right. Most likely the path isn't any different on those unless you're trying to change it, which you might be. But most likely the path isn't different. It's either the contact point on the face, heel, toe, or most likely face control, open and close, that's causing those problems. So if you don't know what your path is, whether it's fairly neutral, if it's inside out, or if it's outside in, then it's hard to know what shape you should pursue. For example, if you're inside out a lot and you decide you want to hit cuts because you're sick of hooking it, well, that's probably not going to work unless you aim so far left that your path can be left of the target. So like I said, you got to at least know what it is before you decide if you're going to either change it or manage it. In my case, my path was inside out, and I did not want to hit a draw because draws turn into hooks for me. So I changed my path to a much more neutral path. I actually went outside in for a while, trying to hit cuts, and now it hovers pretty close to 0 most of the time. But you got to make sure your path aligns with what you want as far as the ball flight goes. And you have two options. Once you know your path, you can either say, okay, for example, I'm inside out, I need to hit draws, or I'm inside out, I don't want to hit draws, I need to change my path to something a little more neutral or outside in. But if you don't know, then you're probably already off to a rough start because you might be trying to do something you're simply not capable of given your current path. Good to know the face laws too. The sad part is, when you're swinging it pretty fast, 2 or 3 degrees at impact is a tiny amount. When that club's moving 110 plus miles an hour, but it makes a huge difference. So, face control ultimately is kind of the thing you have to manage more than anything. That's what I did with my swing. I kind of made my path a little more neutral and then spent all of my time working on face control, i.e. trying to keep the face square as much as possible or as long as possible. And but I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't really know where I was starting.